So, I was going to do this last night. I was going to do this match week number 5 MLS review last night and also do the power rankings. But unfortunately, my internet decided not to let me to do that. Literally after I upload my match vlog, my internet literally decided to quit on me, and I just thought that, it was like around 11:30 last night, and since my internet was dead, I couldn't really like upload this onto YouTube. I might as well just kind of like wait till tomorrow. I mean, I don't need internet to record this process. I am using OBS to kind of like record this, but I can't really upload it after I record this. And I usually, when I do these videos, I usually upload it straight away after I finish recording. And because I can't do that, I just say I might as well just wait till tomorrow. But either way, let's get into these 11 games. And just to let you guys know, if you already not know, this is going to be a long video, because there has been a lot of crazy things that has happened this weekend. And I'm talking about these two games, and especially this game, which looked like I just watched a movie. But I'll definitely get to this one. There was also a couple of upsets too, and a couple of not really surprising result. And speaking of which, let's get to that one. TFC winning 3-1 against RSL. Goals from Altidore with a brace. He actually scored the penalty in his first goal. Ricketts, of course, scored in stoppage time. RSL did try to make this interesting with Bird scoring in the 82nd minute, but like I said, Ricketts scoring in the stoppage time was pretty much just seals the deal for TFC and get them all 3 points. And really, TFC just pretty much just dominate this whole game. They actually missed a penalty early on, and this was a very kind of another one of those very controversial kind of penalty that was given. It was involved with like a handball where one of the RSL players kind of like slide down and got the ball, but I really felt like that wasn't a handball, because when he goes down and that ball kind of touches his arm, the ball kind of like rolled into his arm, and how he was kind of like in a natural position. But the referee says otherwise. It was a penalty. Good thing for RSL is that they, of course, saved it. Romaldo saved another penalty, and that was actually Javinko, the one that took that penalty. But unfortunately, he couldn't save the second penalty from Altidore. And the difference between that penalty to the Javinko penalty is that Altidore actually hit it with power. Javinko one didn't really hit it with power at all. In fact, I thought the penalty by Sebastian Javinko was pretty poor, and it kind of stirred up a little bit of debate of who exactly is going to take the crucial penalty, because this is something that maybe TFC have to figure out, consider that this situation could come up in their Champions League kind of match on Wednesday. But it's a good win for Toronto. It's good that they finally got a win. There was a lot of question, when are they going to get their first win? And I know that they have kind of involved with Champions League and stuff like that, but it's get to a point where the longer they don't get a win, the more further fell behind they are going to be those teams that they are going to really challenge for that top spot. Teams like NYCFC and also Atlanta, the team that they're going to challenge. But yeah, they're on the board now. And as for RSL, it's a loss. Just have to shake this one off. I mean, it didn't look like you were going to win this one. It was kind of a miracle to maybe get a draw in this one, but just kind of shake this off, move on into the next game, and see if you can get all 3 points. Next up, this is where we get to the crazy game. So I actually watched only the second half of this, because once again, I woke up late for this. And, the second half was just as crazy as it was in the first half. In the first literally half hour in this match, it was 2-2. There was 4 goals scored in this match, and it was not a 2-2 you would think of. It was a 2-2 where it was back and forth and back and forth. So Vela got the party started with the goal in the 7th minute, and then Will Johnson tied this game up in the 15th minute. Then Etienne Jr. decided to give the Red Bulls the lead again, only for Dom Dwyer to literally score an equalizer 2 minutes later and score his first ever goal for Orlando City. He then give Orlando City the first lead in the 48th minute, and then Long, of course, equalized for the Red Bulls in the 82nd minute to make it 3-3, and then Coleman decided he's going to be another guy that will score his first ever goal for Orlando City here, and at that point it was 4-3. I mean, it was an absolute crazy game, and I think if it wasn't for this game, this would be the big storyline, because it was just so back and forth. Like, it was just so even. It, as a neutral, this is a game that you just love to watch. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you're either a Orlando City fan or a Red Bulls fan, you probably hate these kind of games because it's just back and forth and back and forth. It's kind of like nail biting and stuff like that. But as a neutral, this is a dream scenario for you, and I think this win certainly probably saved Jason Christ's job for another game. I mean, it was pretty clear that when Long scored that equalizer, you know, Jason Christ's kind of career at Orlando City was in big jeopardy, but fortunately Coleman kind of saved his career for a bit. Now, that doesn't mean that Jason Christ is completely safe, and it's pretty clear that Orlando City have a big problem right now, and that after this game was defense, because the goals that they conceded, some of the goals that they conceded in this game was very, very sloppy. But they did get 4 goals in this game. Some of the guys that they signed throughout these last couple of years, part of this kind of going all in project, score in this one. And yeah, it's definitely a good win for Orlando City, and now hopefully they can build off of this win and maybe trying to figure out their defense a little bit, because it's not going to be every day that they're going to concede 3 goals and somehow they still can win the game. So that's going to be a thing that Jason Christ have to solve. And in terms for the Red Bulls, you know, it is a tough loss to swallow. They thought they got at least a point in this after they equalized in the 82nd minute, but I wouldn't worry this game that much if I was Jesse Marsch. I think the Red Bulls have been sensational so far, considering the fact that once again they had to start a lot of their reserve for this game because they have a midweek game against Chivas Guadalajara and how they have to go away. So they couldn't really put their strongest squad in this match. So yeah, fair play to the Red Bulls for trying to get something out of this. And yeah, what a game it was. Now, speaking of what a game it was, this is the main story of this week. And I obviously watched this game, as you expected, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people watches this game. I said that in the preview that this is a game that I definitely will keep an eye on. And there was just so much hype surrounded this game coming into this one with, you know, how is this first kind of derby game gonna work? How are both fan base gonna kind of react? And what's going to happen with Zlatan? Will he actually come into this game and make a big difference? Well, not only we found out all that answer, but it was then some after what happened in this game. Unbelievable is just an understatement you can say describe this game. This was probably the greatest game, and probably one of those games that in the next couple of years you will always look back. I mean, this was probably the best derby game and probably the best rivalry game that I have seen since when the Quakes got a miraculous 3-2 win against LA Galaxy back in 2012. I mean, it was right up that level, and there was just so much storyline in this. And like I said in the beginning of the video, this looked like a movie. This looked like something just out of a movie. And even if you write this movie, it would probably look a little bit unrealistic in some sense. But, you know, the movie obviously started with LAFC just completely dominating the first couple of minutes, with Carlos Vela scoring just an absolute wonderful curler. I mean, that goal, I think that goal is going to be really overshadowed in this game because what happened later on. But Vela, of course, gives LAFC a 1-0 lead, and then he of course scored the second one, and the second goal really kind of remind me of what happened a couple of years ago when Giovanni Dos Santos kind of decided to just completely embarrass Tim Howard with the fact that he literally had the ball and Tim Howard was trying to grass to get the ball. Well, that of course was what David Bingham was doing, and unlike what happened a couple of years ago where I just felt absolutely sick that Giovanni Dos Santos has, I was laughing my ass off when Vela did that to Bingham, because yeah, that was certainly very fun to do, and eventually he did put it away. He actually almost missed it too because it came off the post, but when it came off the post, it just crosses the line. So at that point it was 2-0, and at that point LAFC was pretty much dominating. LA Galaxy did started to kind of attack a little bit, but unfortunately they were dealt with another blow coming right out of halftime with Sturridge getting an own goal. Basically, Orania was kind of like running toward the area, and then he was trying to cross that one back to somebody. There was actually nobody around the box, but unfortunately Sturridge just basically just puts it into his own net, and at that point it was 3-0, and at that point I thought it was over. I mean, that goal pretty much just, I don't know how that does not kill off the Galaxy. How does that not kill off their confidence? You score literally right after you come out of halftime, your confidence level would be just completely down the drain. And also, you were down 3-0. But for some reason, the Galaxy continue to attack. They continue to believe that they can get something out of this. And the comeback really started with Sebastian Lletget scoring a goal. But then, right around the 71st minute, Zlatan, of course, got introduced. And would you believe it? Just literally 2 minutes after Zlatan got introduced, and even though he wasn't involved with this goal that Chris Pontius has scored, but literally just after he came on, the Galaxy are back in the game. I mean, that is something I definitely did not expect it. I definitely did not expect him to make a big influence like straight off the bat, and I thought it would probably take a little bit of time to materialize, but they literally got a goal back and pretty much put this game on again with Pontia's header. And then in the 77th minute, you know what's coming. And if you have not seen this goal yet, you must watch this. I mean, this is probably not only the best goal and probably the goal of the week by a mile, but this could be the best goal we have ever seen in MLS history. I mean, basically, what Zlatan decided to do was that he decided to hit a volley from 38 yards out and pretty much just scorch that one into the back of the net to tie the game. I mean, after I watched that game, and the commentator was literally, they were as excited as I am, but after I watched that one, I was not only in complete disbelief, but I was speechless. I could not believe what I just witnessed. And this was not just any kind of usually when you score a goal from 40 or 50 yards out, it's usually when you chip the goalkeeper off the line. No, Tyler Miller was actually not off his line. This was just an absolute bullet from 40 yards out and basically just hits it into the back of the net. I mean, that is just absolutely insane, but if there is going to be one guy that can score that kind of spectacular goal, then why not? It has to be Zlatan. I mean, why not? And if that wasn't enough in terms of trying to create this movie over dramatic, he decided to score a stoppage time winner to win this El Trafico for LAFC. Now, obviously, this goal has come down as a little bit controversial because of, there was an offside that that should have been in play. Basically, the ball was kind of like play into Zlatan, and he actually didn't go to the ball, but he tried to run away the ball because he knew he was in an offside position. And then when the ball came back in the box, he basically was first to head that one in to score the winner. But there's been a lot of discussion about that offside and whether or not if that was an offside. And even when Zlatan tried to run away from the ball, in my opinion, I think that was an offside because it was pretty clear that he was about to get to that ball, and I think the linesman should have raised his flag, and people were kind of complaining about that, but still take nothing away from what happened in this game. And I think the reason why they let that one go was probably because if they let that one go, then it doesn't really have the good storyline as it was like that, like what we just saw in this game. But yeah, I mean, I understand why people have a issue with that goal, and I understand why VAR is once again coming into criticism, because this probably should have been reviewed over VAR, but it wasn't. But still, take nothing away from what Zlatan just single-handedly bring the Galaxy back into this game, and also single-handedly won the game for the Galaxy. And if this is the Zlatan that we're going to see, oh my goodness, the Western Conference better watch out, because the Galaxy could easily finish in the top of the table in the Western Conference. And I'm not even exaggerating. I mean, so far you look at what the Galaxy, and even coming into this game, they still had injuries coming into this game. Both Dos Santos' brother were not in this game, and Alessandrini was also not in this game. So they were still missing guys coming into this game, and yet the fact that they was able to win, and Zlatan was kind of like the one that did it, there is really just, the Galaxy are really going to once again challenge for that top spot, and that's sort of bad news for everybody, including myself. I really did not want to see the Galaxy to come back to where they were a couple of years ago, but after this performance, you just cannot say that they don't deserve to at least potentially challenge for the playoff spot. And as for LAFC, yeah, this must be the most devastating loss, and this is going to be one that's going to remember for a very long time. I mean, blowing a 3-0 lead and then lose 4-3 at well, not at home, but on the road against your biggest rivalry is the last thing that Bob Bradley and his team wanted to see. But I think for LAFC, they as much as how embarrassing this was, they need to definitely shake this off and just try to forget it and just move on into the next game. Next up, so this one, I'm pretty sure that if you were a fan of Columbus and Vancouver, you're probably a little bit disappointed about this game, because this game was actually on the same time as the LAFC and Galaxy, and pretty much nobody really cared about this result because this was just so hyped up. But, I will admit that I didn't actually watch a single minute of this game. I only watched, the highlights of this one. But, Vancouver did it again on the road. I mean, I feel like Vancouver right now, they are literally, the best road team right now. And, like I said, what happened in my last preview, the reason why I feel like Vancouver are just so good on the road and why they are better than anybody on the road is because they play that kind of counter-attacking style of play whenever they go into a game, and that is usually a tactics that a lot of MLS teams trying to replicate whenever they go on the road. And so far, Vancouver has been the one that's doing the best, and although both of those goals didn't come in terms of counter-attack, and it was just really silly mistake from Columbus, I think the Kamara one was the one that there was just a silly mistake, silly giveaway from Columbus that allowed that to happen. But yeah, good win for the Whitecaps. By the way, the goals from Brek Shea and Kai Kamara. Of course, Kamara scoring against his former club, and they were actually booing him throughout the whole game, which is a bit interesting. I'm not quite sure why exactly you would kind of like boo him after what he did with Columbus and how he almost won them an MLS Cup. And Zardes, of course, scored another goal. That, of course, is now his fourth goal in Columbus. And, you know, I don't know. I want to say that Jarzy Zardes is sort of, he's kind of back to what he used to be, and that, you know, it feels like this change of scenery was the answer for him to kind of energize his career. But, you know, we're going to see how, if he can keep this up, if he can continue to score goals for Columbus. And I think for Columbus, I wouldn't worry about this game that much, because so far Columbus have had a really good season, and I think they kind of overachieve on what I expect of them this season. I thought this season they were going to take a step back, but instead they have been taking a step forward. And, you know, this game against Vancouver is a little bit of a setback, but I wouldn't be that worried at all, because Vancouver has been just so good on the road. And it's quite weird that how in the world does the Whitecaps not able to get their job done against LA a week ago? I mean, that just shows how MLS, it's just so kind of, it's so difficult at times to predict some of these games, because there's going to be one game where a team perform absolutely shit, and then the very next game they just turn it on. So it can be really tough at times to predict these games, and this is a one that I definitely kind of did not expect it. But at the same time, you know, with Vancouver winning on the road, even though I didn't quite expect it, I wasn't overly surprised, because Vancouver is just a good road team. But either way, moving on, Chicago with a 2-2 draw against the Portland Timbers. Remember how I said that, you know, a draw really doesn't help either of this team in this game? Well, that is exactly what happened, and like I said, it doesn't really help both of these two teams. I'm pretty sure both of these teams are probably not happy with this result. Well, I think maybe Chicago would be a little happy the fact that they finally got on the board and finally get a point into their season, but you know, they certainly would hope that they would got all 3 points against a Timbers team that is just really struggling in this early stage. And for the Timbers, they're probably absolutely disappointed that they didn't get all 3 points in this. Twice they blew a lead in this, you know. Valeri, of course, finally scoring his first goal, and then Nikolic decided to tie things up. And then Sebastian Blanco, basically the offense for Portland right now, score another goal. And then Vincent basically tied it up in the 84th minute off of a header. And yeah, like I said, it's pretty, for Portland, it's pretty disappointed that they didn't really get all 3 points in this, because they were playing a Chicago side that was also struggling this season. So yeah, like I said, a 2-2 draw in this doesn't really help each other in this game. And you just hope that, you know, for Portland, they can just, I think they're almost done with their long and just gruesome road trip that they had to go on for the first couple of weeks because of that renovation at Providence Park. And for Chicago, they better hope the fact that, you know, they can somehow start to probably build on this resort. I mean, I don't know how you can easily build on this resort, consider the fact that you just drew at home. I mean, that's you never like to draw at home unless you're playing a tough team, and the Timber are clearly not what it used to be. And yeah. Meanwhile, let's move on to the next game. So this game ended 6-1 last year. This game ended with a 6-1 Atlanta result, and it was also snowing last year. But this year, it wasn't snowing, but it was frigid cold, according to what MLS Soccer said. And this game only ended 1-0. And the only goal in this game wasn't actually scored by an Atlanta player, but it was actually an own goal by Calvo. And this was a very unfortunate own goal, because one of the Atlanta players, I think it was Villalba basically hit the post, and then the ball just bounced off the post right into Francesco Calvo, and it basically hits it into the back of the net. It was a very FIFA-esque kind of type of own goal. And, unfortunately, he, of course, conceded that. And then, of course, Atlanta went down to 10 men after a second yellow card by Perez. And, yeah, this was a well-deserved second yellow card. I mean, basically, he pretty much just completely shoved that Minnesota player. And I think it was Nicholson that was the one that was victim to this foul, and basically Perez just shoved Nicholson onto the advertising board even though the ball was already out of bounds. I mean, that's not even a yellow card in my opinion. I think in some way you could say that's a red card. Like, that is just so reckless. There's no need to do that. And I don't know why Perez decided to do that. I mean, his team was up 1-0. They had a chance to potentially get 2 or 3-0 and get the job done, but he just had to decide to do a very silly thing to do that, and he got himself sent off. And it really didn't help Atlanta at that point, because they did not look like a team that... They did not look as good as they were when they had 11 men, and Minnesota had a lot of chances to try to come back in this. In fact, Minnesota, once again, for probably the third time this season, they decided to really go on the attack in the last 10 minutes of the game. And what's interesting about that is that kind of reminds me of what Mike Quake's used to do. I mean, Mike Quake's team a couple of years ago always tends to go on the attack and just really decided to go for it right near the end and to try to salvage a draw and trying to get a win. And for Minnesota, this is the same case. They didn't look very good at all, even though they were up a man. But when the 80th minute hits, they probably realized that we got to get at least a draw out of this, because they're down to a man. And unfortunately, once again, like last week, they just could not quite put that crucial goal to get an equalizer in this game. And that must be really frustrating for Loons fan, because they had the chances to get a draw out of this and they didn't. And really, for the Loons, it's back to pretty much reality again, and how they probably are going to struggle once again. Although this week, there was some big news for Minnesota, and I'm pretty sure this will make Loons fan a little bit happy. Darwin Quintero is now officially the first ever designated player for Minnesota United. Yeah, Minnesota, it took you a year and a half to finally get a designated player. Well done on that. I thought they would never do it. I thought with the owner that they had and how he said that he's going to invest on later kind of transfer window to eventually get a player. But eventually they did get a player, and I think it's a pretty solid player that they have with Darwin Quintero. He was a very star kind of man when he was at Club America, and I think Minnesota will really be very benefit for that. And they really need a striker at this point, because it was just basically Christian Ramirez, and then who else that can really score the goals for them? I mean, guys like Abu Denladi, Kevin Molino are all went down with injury, and they just need something going forward. And Quintero is definitely going to offer that. But yeah, moving on. This was a bit of a surprise. This is probably the most surprising result of the weekend. And yeah, the Revs winning 2-0 against Houston at BBVA Compass Stadium. And Houston, what is going on? You guys won 4-0 in the first week of the MLS season against Atlanta, and you were sending a message that we could be back again. And ever since that 4-0 victory, you have lost at home to Vancouver. You have drew against DC United away, where you should have got all 3 points and blew a 2-0 lead. And now in this game, you lay an egg against the Revs, who many, including myself, didn't think that they're going to be really good, and the fact that they're gonna really struggle to get out of the cellar this season. I mean, I honestly don't know what exactly happened with Houston, and I think maybe some of that has to do with DeMarcus Beasley getting sent off. And actually, this is a typo. He didn't get sent off in the 71st minute. He got sent off in the 39th minute. But yeah, basically he got sent off because I think it was Pena basically went through on goal, and Beasley had to do something to try to stop the attack, and eventually he did brought him down. And at that point it was clearly a red card because that was denial of goal score opportunity. But still, the fact that Houston lay an egg against the refs, and the fact that they are started to really struggle so far, it's a little bit kind of a concerning factor for Wilmer Cabrera team. And throughout the season and even the preseason, I kind of thought that maybe Houston was kind of struggled this year, and I think this is probably now showing that maybe the fact that what happened with last season and how they got rid of a couple of key pieces, and I thought last season they kind of overachieved a little bit. The second year it started to kind of like a sophomore slump for them, and it's kind of like back to reality for them, and this is sort of the case right now. And they also, the fact that now they have dropped 2 home games right now, when last season they only lost once at BBVA Compass Stadium. That is another big concerning, because home wins and home points are what drives Houston into the playoffs last season. And I know Houston is not going to do very well on the road, but if they drop points at home, then that is a huge concerning factor. But as for the refs, I mean, they are starting to prove a lot of their wrongs, that they're not just going to just trying to get out of the cellar spot. We're actually going to do better. We're actually going to try to compete in that very tough Eastern Conference team. And I thought the man of this match, and the player that really kind of like defined the refs in this match, is this guy called Pena, who, like I said, he drew a red card from DeMarcus Beasley in the 37th minute, and he also scored a goal in this game, and also he set up a lot of good opportunity for the refs to score more goals. And yeah, that is definitely very good news for the refs. Consider the fact that they don't really have a lot of good attacking kind of threats. The other goal came from Bunbury, which is also his first goal. But like I said, the refs, this is a very impressive win against a team that just do not lose at home, and to do that on the road against a team to do that on the road, and to do it in a place where nobody really gets a win last season, fair play to the refs. And maybe the refs could potentially challenge for a spot. Maybe they're not going to just take a huge step back to last season, where they almost made it to the playoffs with that 7th spot. But yeah, either way, next up, so I've been to this game yesterday. It's been almost 12 hours since this game has passed, and I kind of able to collect the thoughts of this game, and I kind of mentioned how in this one where I feel like we at least deserve a draw in this game. But basically, Quintana, of course, scored a goal in the 3rd minute. It was a dream start for us, but then it just kind of fell apart with Tinnerholm scoring an absolute thunder of a goal in the 49th minute off of a set piece and off of a corner. And Maxi Morales basically scored in the 60th minute to make it 2-1. And the reason why I say we don't deserve to lose this one, like I titled in my match vlog yesterday, is that we had chances to equalize. We had numerous opportunity to equalize late in the game. And NYCFC was kind of like controlling the game a little bit between minute 15 to minute 60, but after when they took the lead, it really kind of woke us up. And that probably is another thing that kind of infuriated me, because why can't we do that when we were up 1-0? Why can't we just score that second goal and potentially put this game to bed? But instead, we didn't do that. We went behind and we were kind of like chasing the game and trying to get that goal. And Sean Johnson, like what I said yesterday, he was literally like David De Gea yesterday. I mean, he made a lot of big saves, and that's what Sean Johnson is. I mean, Sean Johnson this year has made some really crucial saves, and maybe if he keeps doing that, then he definitely will be potentially the future for the goalkeeper position for the U.S. men's national team. But yeah, it's a very frustrating kind of loss for us. And what's also more frustrating about this game is that, I didn't mention this in the vlog, but once again, our defense, and especially Shea Salinas, he had another shocker kind of a game, and he was pretty much at fault for the Maxi Morales goal, where he was letting that ball through to Maxi Morales, and there's just so many times that Shea Salinas either gets into a bad position and trying to get the ball away from a defender, or the fact that he just get dragged out of position. I mean, I feel like it's pretty much clear that Salinas is going to be on the bench and pretty much not belong in the starting 11 anymore after the performance that he has, because it's pretty clear that he is not a left back. He cannot perform anymore in that position. And the other thing that I will also say that really infuriating me is that why in the world did Michael Starhay not make more substitution? Why did we not bring on like Hika or Tommy Thompson to try to push forward for that equalizer? I mean, I get he put on Ameriquan to try to get something forward, but remember how I said in the Club Lyon match how I didn't think Ameriquan should belong in the starting lineup? But even when he came off the bench, I didn't think that he was going to make that much of an impact. Hika is the one that will definitely make a huge impact, and maybe even Tommy Thompson would do that, but he didn't bring them on, and I just don't get it. Like, why? Why did you only make one substitution when you clearly could make two more to strengthen up on that attack and trying to get something going? But yeah, it's just, I feel like we gotta change the way we approach these games, and I feel like the defense need to really, like, this summer we gotta find a new left back, and potentially we need a couple of center backs too, because it's pretty clear that center back partnership, which I said before that it didn't look like it's working, but some people said that maybe it's a working process. Maybe we should give them time. Yeah, by the time we give them time, we would be literally near the bottom of the Western Conference, and we would be dig ourselves into a very deep hole. So yeah. But yeah, moving away from the disappointment, this game, Sporting KC winning 1-0 against DC United. The only goal for this game came in the 3rd minute by Felipe Gutierrez. Again, I mean, can we say that Felipe Gutierrez could be a early contention for newcomer of the year? Because right now, 5 goals, he's now atop of the Golden Boot. And this is a guy that not many people thought that he was going to be the guy that is going to really just carry that Sporting KC offense with his scoring ability, and more like he was going to make some really good kind of through ball and really create some nice chance for Sporting KC going forward. But instead, he's been just scoring goals for fun, and he's really been kind of like the offense of Sporting KC. I think he has scored pretty much half of Sporting KC's goal this season. And also, originally, this one was ruled an own goal, because when Gutierrez hits this ball into the back of the net, he was actually looked like he was aiming for a cross, but it came off one of the defender's leg, and basically it rose into the back of the net. And Sporting KC did had a couple big chance to make this game a 2-0 or a 3-0 game. Basically just put it away. But they did get the job done against DC United. And as for DC United, if there is a worse team in the league right now, I don't know who exactly it is. I mean, maybe some will say Minnesota might be along that category to become basically the worst team in the league right now. But DC United is right now the worst team in the league. I mean, the attack is just not generating at all. Yamil Assad and also Darren Maddox was incredibly quiet in this game. The defense looked absolutely shaky as hell, and the midfield just gets completely overrun by Sporting KC. So, yeah, for DC United, it is a painful time to go through right now. And even with them opening up Audi Field, I don't really think that there's gonna. I think that probably is the only positive throughout this year, because, you know, if they continue this kind of form into their lead up to opening Audi Field, then they would be out of contention of the playoffs very, very soon. And they already play 5 games this season, which is one of the most out of all these 23 teams that have played this season, and they only got 2 points. And I think that's probably the worst ratio throughout 5 games. I mean, it's just really bad right now for DC United, and I don't know what to say. They seriously need a lot of big signing in the summer to trying to at least steer the ship right now. But as it is, it looked like it's going to be just like last season, which is going to be finished rock bottom in the Eastern Conference. Well, next up, speaking of team that used to be rock bottom in the Western Conference and the team that looked like they're going to really suck this year, Colorado, 3-0 against the Union. Baji with a hat trick, and I also heard from the Colorado broadcast team that this was the first hat trick that Colorado scored in almost 7 years. Or actually, I think it's 8 years. But it's something like that. And that pretty much just explained how Colorado is as a franchise these last couple of years. This is a team that just does not score a lot of goals. And, you know, Baji, of course, scoring, like I said, scoring a hat trick. I think that's his first ever hat trick in MLS. Scoring the 53rd, 61st, and the 87th minute. You know, Domenico Baji has been pretty decent so far this season for Colorado. I mean, I think last season it was a pretty disappointing season for him, but you know, he's already up to 4 goals this season. He's right up there with the likes of Joseph Martinez and Jerzy Zardes with 4 goals, and yeah, that's definitely a good company to join in, even though it's kind of early in the season. And as for the Union, oh wow, looks like that kind of good start to the season was a complete mirage, because this game, they look absolutely horrendous in this game. And to give up 3 goals against Colorado and to give up a hat trick against Colorado is a big, big crime for Philly. And like what I said with DC United, I think Philly is probably going to be right near that bottom spots of the Eastern Conference, mainly because they just don't have enough in their team. I mean, besides David Accam, they have a bunch of nobodies on their team. Or maybe besides David Accam and CJ Sapon and also Andre Blake, they're just nobody really I can think of that can really just change the game for Philly and produce a lot. So yeah, for Philly, it's definitely a very tough loss to swallow, and they hope that they can maybe get back onto the winning side next time. And it's definitely a rough start to the road trip this season. Anyway, we're almost there, guys. If you're still watching this, I don't even know how long we're into this video. I think we're at least 40 minutes into this. But if you're still watching this, then thank you for the support. But we're about to get into the last game, which is Seattle versus Montreal, where Montreal won 1-0. And Seattle, oh my goodness, when are you ever going to finish a game where you're not going to get a man sent off this year? They play 3 games this season, right? And all 3 games they had a man send off. And this goes back to the first game where they had a man send off. I forgot who exactly it was, but basically what that Sounder player basically stopped an attack on LAFC, and rightfully so, that deserved a red card. But then the sending off just started to get weird for Seattle. The second sending off against FC Dallas was Dempsey basically decided to hit someone in the balls. And then in this game, it was Leerdam that decided to slap somebody in the face to get himself sent off. I mean, oh my goodness. How many dumb way can you get sent off this season, Seattle? And really, I feel like Seattle and Portland, if there is one thing that is also kind of in common this season, besides the fact that they are Cascadia neighbor and they hate each other, is the fact that they probably have invented some of the most dumbest way to get sent off this season. I mean, remember how last week when Portland played against Dallas and how oh god, I should remember who this was because this was a hilarious sending off. But basically, one of the Portland player decided to do a hand of God moment, try to punch the ball into the back of the net, but then he gets sent off. Like, what in the world were you trying to think? And in this game, Leerdam basically just right down slapped somebody in the face. I mean, whenever you slap somebody in the face, even if it's your own player or against another player, you are always going to get sent off. And what's also interesting about this and what makes this even more idiotic is that when I watched the Seattle broadcast and how they were saying that, you know, how is that a red card when they showed the incident where basically I think it was Leerdam that basically, or not Leerdam, but basically one of the Montreal players basically jumped up on the ball and Leerdam basically kind of caught him in midair. And they was just going crazy and say, how is that a red card? That must be the most embarrassing and one of the most stupidest red card that I ever seen in this game. Yeah, no shit, that is a stupid kind of red card. But you know what, Seattle broadcast? That was actually not the incident. Okay? The incident, the VAR review was not because of that. It was because of somebody slapping another player. And it's pretty clear that they didn't show that. Like, I was genuinely confused. I was actually originally thinking that, how is that a red card? But then later on when I found out through Reddit and a bunch of other kind of tweets talked about how, you know, Leerdam kind of slapped him, I just thought, yep, that is a red card. There's the reason of how he got sent off in that game. So, yeah, that's another just kind of, I don't know what was the broadcast team of Seattle thinking there to just try to fool people that is just an absolute horrendous red card and trying to create more VAR controversy. I mean, I don't know if that was kind of like part of their deal to trying to make VAR a little bit more controversial, but at least show the actual red card and actual sending off that has happened. But overall in this game, and even with Seattle getting a man sent off, they actually had opportunity to equalize in this game. In fact, Montreal really did not do much in this game. The only thing that they did was this goal from Vargas. That was really like the only attack throughout this game, and this really felt very similar to that LAFC game where Seattle was pushing man forward. They were doing anything and everything to try to score a goal. And they couldn't score that crucial equalizer. And for Seattle, that's now 3 straight games that they have lost. They're the only team in the league right now with 0 points coming into this season. And despite the fact that Sounders fan will say that, oh, this is just another one of those seasons where we're gonna off to a slow start, but eventually we're gonna get back into gear in the middle of the season and make the playoffs. Yeah, but at some point, that obviously is not going to work at all. Just because it has happened in the last 2 seasons doesn't mean that it can happen again this season. And I just feel like it's going to be a matter of time where Seattle, whenever they got off to the slow start, they are going to be very, very costly. And I think, once again, they're off to a very slow start, and I feel like this could be very costly for them this year. And it's also pretty much clear that the big problem for Seattle is that they do not have a number 9. They need a number 9, clearly. I think some people said that Zlatan should have signed with Seattle. I didn't think that would have been the answer either way, because I feel like Seattle really need a long-term number 9. Not just some guy that is 36-year-old and, just basically going to be an impact for them for maybe a year or two. And he's not going to play the full 90 minutes, so I think if Zlatan came to Seattle, it would be a dumb move to trying to get your striker in. I feel like they really need a young and long-term kind of striker, because it's pretty clear that once Dempsey retire, Seattle is screwed in terms of that number 9 role. Well, actually, once Jordan Morris come back from injury, and I don't know how Jordan Morris is going to be when he come back from this leg injury, but let's say if he does not do well when he comes back from this really long injury, then it's pretty clear, like I said, they need a number 9, because there's just nobody else that I think could be a number 9 for Seattle right now. So, yeah, that is a problem that they gotta solve. And as for Montreal, it's a good win for them. Probably this was the worst game for Montreal, but somehow they still got a win. So, yeah, and Montreal kind of rely on a little bit of luck in this game too, because there were a couple of shots where Evan Bush decided to be like David De Gea again. I think Evan Bush alongside with Sean Johnson is going to be really battling this week for the best save of this week. But yeah, there was some incredible save that he had made in this game against Seattle and keep this game with a 1-0 lead for Montreal. But it's better be lucky than just be good at times. And it's a lucky win for Montreal. They're definitely gonna take this 3 points. And yeah, that of course is the end of my match review. I hope you guys watched this whole thing, because it was incredibly long, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, let me know in the comments what do you think of all these 11 games, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.